Hey guys, today we're going to go over a brief review on moon phases. All right, so if you remember, there are 8 moon phases. There's the 4 primary, the new moon, the first quarter, full moon, and third quarter. And then there are the secondaries, like the waxing crescent, the waxing gibbous, waning crescent, and waning gibbous. So, what causes us to see the different phases of the moon? Well, if you remember, the moon revolves around the Earth, and that takes about 30 days, 29.5, give or take. And at the same time, we are revolving around the sun. So you can see from this GIF that the moon is always half lit by the sun. It's just where it is in its revolution around us that makes what we see different every night. Okay? Before we get into how to tell which moon phase is which, I wanted to show you this diagram. So notice here, the sunlight is on the right side. If it asks you what side the sunlight is on, what you do is you look at the picture. Notice that here it has 8 moon phases with the Earth, and half of it is dark and half of it is light. The side that is light is the side that the sun is shining on. All right? The sun is not going to come from some weird angle up there, because then it wouldn't be half and half. So if our sun is here, then the new moon, notice, is always in between the Earth and the sun, because the sun is shining on this side of the shining on this side of the moon. So that's the part that's facing the sun. But what we see is this black part right here. So the new moon is always in between the Earth and the sun. And again, that's because the sun is shining on the front of the moon, but we are looking at the back of the moon. Okay? That means that the full moon over here is always going to be at the end of the line with the sun, the Earth, and the moon, because now the sun is shining on the front side of the moon, so that is why it looks whole to us. Again, half the moon is always lit at any point in time. It's just how much of it we can see that changes. After you figure out the new moon and the full moon, and again, those are the easy ones because it's just a straight line, you are going to do the first quarter and the last quarter. Remember, the moon phases go counterclockwise. So they go that direction. So the first 90-degree angle to the left of the new moon is the first quarter. That's the one where we see basically half. Now, when you look up in the sky at night, it's not going to look half and half just like this. They'll have a curve in it. But on the diagrams, most of the time, it's just straight half and half. Then to the left, the right angle, you have the last or third quarter. So again, the main 4 are the new moon, the first quarter, the full moon, and the last quarter. So those are the ones where it's 0% for new moon, 50% for the first quarter and the third quarter, and 100% for the full moon. So now it's time to fit in the secondary phases, the crescents and the gibbous. So directly after the new moon, it's going to start increasing its light because the new moon has no light. So to increase, the word is waxing. And remember, we're going counterclockwise for this. So, and the crescent is just a sliver of light. So it makes sense that after we don't see anything, we're just going to see a little bit. So there's our waxing crescent. Then we had our first quarter, which we already talked about. So we have our waxing gibbous. Now, since light is still increasing, we see a lot more of it. The gibbous is when you look up at night and it looks almost full, but it might be a little flat on one side. That is the gibbous moon. So there's the waxing crescent and the waxing gibbous. So then we have our full moon, which again was 100%. We see the whole thing. And after that, it's going to start getting smaller. To get smaller means to wane. So now it looks just like the waxing gibbous, but the light is on the other side. Notice for waxing, the light is on the right. For waning, the light is on the left. So the waning gibbous looks almost full again, but now as it's rotating, it has less light. Then we have our last quarter, which we mentioned, and then finally our waning crescent. This is right before the light disappears completely again for the full moon. Now let's talk about how long it takes to make the whole cycle. So it's 29.5 days for it to go from a new moon all the way back around to a new moon. 29.5, but we tend to round up to 30, which is about more or less a month. Okay? So 30 days is about a month. So it's about 1 month to go again from the new moon back to the new moon. And remember, it always goes counterclockwise. So if we were to divide this into quarters, because there are about, give or take, 4 weeks in a month, right? So if we divide it into quarters like that, that means to go from the new moon to the full moon is 1/2 month. 1/2 month is about 15 days. So half the cycle is 15 days, then the other half of the cycle is about 15 days. To break that down even further, if it's if it's a half month to go from the new moon to the full moon, about 15 days, well, really, yeah, 14 to 15 days, then to go from the new moon to the first quarter is half of that, and half of 2 weeks is 1 week. So it's about 1 week or 7 days, 7 days to go from the new moon to the first quarter, which means from first quarter to full moon, 7 days. From full moon to last quarter, 7 days. From last quarter back to new moon, 7 days. So to go between each of the primary moon phases is about a week. And again, give or take. Sometimes it's a little bit less, sometimes it's a little bit more. It's not perfect, but that's the best way to estimate it. Okay? So if you can just basically count by sevens, you will be able to estimate what phase will come when. I'm going to show you an example of how to figure out or how to estimate and predict when a moon phase will happen. So Thursday, May 7th, that was yesterday, was a full moon. Okay? Now, if I asked when would the next new moon be, you could look at a diagram of the moon phases and remember that it takes 1 month to go all the way around. So to go from a full moon all the way back down to a full moon would be 1 month. I'm only asking to go to a new moon, so that's half a month, roughly 2 weeks. So I could guesstimate that from here to here is 1 week, and here to here is 1 week. So around the 21st or the 22nd, there would be the new moon. And just to double check, I'm going to look on my little moon phase calendar. And sure enough, it says the new moon, when it is 0 visibility, is going to be May 22nd, almost exactly 2 weeks after that full moon. So just to wrap up, there are 8 moon phases. Um, the new moon is always in between the Earth and the Sun. The full moon is always on the outside of the Earth and the Sun. Waxing means getting bigger, waning means getting smaller. It takes roughly 1 month to go from new moon to new moon or full moon to full moon, just one complete cycle. You can break that into 4 and do it by weeks, which makes it easy to predict what moon phase is going to happen when. And half the moon is always lit by the sun, whether or not you can see it.